I want you to picture a very specific moment. It's 6 a.m., or maybe, 5:30. The alarm goes off. It is pitch black outside.
Hmm.
And before your feet even touch the floor, before you've even had a sip of coffee, you feel it.
Yeah.
Your internal battery is already blinking red. You are just physically depleted.
It's that heavy, leaden feeling in your chest.
Exactly. But here is the kicker, and this is the sensation I really want to focus on. Instead of rolling over, hitting snooze, and giving your body what it so clearly needs, you feel this immediate, sharp spike of guilt, panic almost.
It's that little voice whispering, you're already behind.
Right, if I'm not moving, I'm failing. It's this gnawing feeling that if you aren't struggling or if you aren't in some level of pain, you don't deserve to move forward. Like resting is actually a crime.
It's so pervasive, and usually we just wrap that feeling in a nice bow and call it ambition or work ethic. We treat it like it's a virtue.
But today we are taking that virtue and putting it under a microscope. And what we're going to find is, frankly, terrifying. We are doing a deep dive into a transcript from a video by the channel Merciless Thought, or Fikr Bilarama.
And the video's titled, Hard Work is a Trap, The Forbidden Machiavellian Truth.
Yeah.
And I have to say, looking through this source material, this is not your standard 5 tips for work-life balance advice. This is dark, it's cynical, and it's incredibly eye-opening.
It really is. The premise here is that our modern obsession with hustle culture and the grind isn't just a personal choice we make to get ahead. The source argues it's a sophisticated mechanism of control. A trap that Niccolo Machiavelli, the guy who literally wrote the book on power, would have recognized immediately.
That's the core thesis, isn't it? The source argues that the system doesn't just want your labor, it wants your belief. It argues that hard work has been engineered into this trap to keep you exhausted, obedient, and ultimately powerless.
That is a massive claim. So here is our mission for this deep dive. We are going to deconstruct this trap. We're going to look at why we feel that guilt, how society uses praise to basically chain us to our desks, and this is the part I'm really excited about, how the source suggests we can break out.
Moving from being the busy person to the strategic person.
Exactly. So let's unpack this. The source starts with a concept it calls the prison without walls, and it begins with a little bit of a history lesson on power.
Right. It dives straight into Machiavelli's understanding of control. And the source makes a really interesting point. Force is actually a very weak form of power.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive. You'd think an army is the ultimate power, right?
But just think about the logistics. If you're a ruler or CEO or a manager, and you have to use a whip or a threat or constant surveillance to get people to work,
your power is fragile.
It's incredibly fragile. It's expensive. It breeds resentment. The moment you turn your back, the work just stops.
So if you want total control, you can't just force people.
No. The source highlights that Machiavelli realized the ultimate power is to change the belief of the subject. If you can change their internal reality, you don't need to force them to do anything.
They will force themselves.
They will police themselves.
And the source argues that the specific belief that's been planted in our heads, the software running in our brains, is that hard work is a moral virtue.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this is the critical shift.
Yeah.
It transforms labor from, something I must do to survive into something that makes me a good person.
Yes.
The transcript points out how we are culturally conditioned. We're taught that waking up before dawn is honorable, that a lack of sleep is proof of greatness, that suffering in silence is character.
I mean, I'm so guilty of this. I've definitely done the humble brag. Oh man, I'm so tired. I worked all weekend.
Of course.
I'm not complaining. I'm signaling. I'm waiting for you to be impressed.
And why do we want people to be impressed? Because we've fused our identity with our struggle. The source calls this identity fusion. Work stops being what you do.
And it becomes who you are.
Exactly. You stop saying, I work hard, and you start believing, I am a grinder. I am a hustler.
And once that happens, the boss doesn't need to yell at you.
You've installed the internal supervisor. That's the prison without walls. You punish yourself with guilt when you aren't productive.
Yeah.
Even in your free time. Even on vacation.
Oh, absolutely. You're sitting on a beach, but your brain is screaming at you that you should be checking emails.
That part of the source really hit home for me, this concept of the fear of silence. The source argues that we keep working not just because we have to, but because we are terrified of stopping.
Because stopping forces us to think.
It does. The source has this just searing line that I highlighted. The exhausted man does not think.
Wow. Yeah.
It's the utility of exhaustion.
Yeah.
If you're constantly running, you never have the energy to look up and ask, wait, where am I actually going? And who benefits from me running this fast?
It's like the system relies on you being too tired to recognize the maze you're in. You're just looking at your feet, taking the next step.
That's it. The source argues that Machiavelli would see this as the perfect point of control. Not when the subjects suffer so much they rebel, but when they suffer just enough to lose the capacity for critical thought.
So you defend the system that drains you because you believe the problem is you.
Exactly. You think, I'm not tired because the system is exploitative. I'm tired because I'm not strong enough yet. I just need to grind harder. It redirects all the blame inward.
That is bleak. But it explains so much about burnout. It's not just physical, it's a psychological trick. But the source goes on to explain that it's not just guilt that keeps us there. There's a carrot, too. This brings us to the concept of the golden chains.
This is probably the most compelling metaphor in the entire transcript, I think. The source argues that the highest form of power isn't coercion, it's getting the victim's consent.
You have to make them want to wear the chains.
And how do you make someone want to be overworked?
You praise them for it.
Specifically, a very targeted, manipulative type of praise. The source sets the scene perfectly. You are exhausted. You are overworked. You are on the verge of cracking. And your boss or society or your parents comes to you and says,
You are different.
you're the only one who can handle this. You're a warrior.
Oh, I have heard that exact speech. Oh, we're giving this project to you because you're the only one who won't drop the ball.
You're the rock star of the team.
Right?
And be honest, even knowing what we know now, how does that make you feel in the moment?
It feels good. It feels great, actually. It feels like I'm special, like I'm the hero of the movie.
And clink, that is the sound of the golden chain locking into place.
Uh,
The source says this chain shines, it feels good, and it doesn't look like a prison. It looks like a medal. So instead of fighting the overwork, you defend it.
You accept another sleepless night, another missed birthday, another weekend lost, because you are protecting that self-image of being the reliable hero.
It's a transaction, isn't it?
I give you my life, you give me a compliment.
It's a predatory trade. You get the title, the applause, the honor, but what do you give up? You give up your freedom, your time, your autonomy. The source explicitly says you get the pride, which is the lock on the cell door.
Pride is the lock on the cell door. Wow, that line gives me chills.
Yeah.
It suggests we are guarding our own selves because we're so proud of how good we are at being prisoners.
Machiavelli would point out that this pride is incredibly useful for the ruler, but devastating for the subject. It keeps you focused on the effort, not the outcome.
Right.
You're so busy proving you can carry this heavy load that you never ask why you're carrying it or where it's even going. You just want to show everyone how strong you are.
This leads right into the next major section of the source material, the illusion of meritocracy. Because the story we are told, the story that keeps us grinding, is that if we just work hard enough, we will get to the top.
Hard work equals success. That's the equation.
And the source just dismantles that idea pretty ruthlessly. It uses this imagery of work being an altar. We sacrifice our health, our time, our presence on this altar for a future reward that just never actually arrives.
But here's where it gets really interesting, or maybe infuriating, depending on your perspective. The source points out a counterintuitive fact. The people at the very top, the actual decision makers, often work fewer hours than the people below them.
That is a critical observation, and it's one that people often get angry about. They say, no, look at the CEO. He works 100 hours a week.
But the source distinguishes between labor and leverage. Strategic roles require clarity and direction, not exhaustion. If you are running the maze, if you're the hustler, you are head down, looking at the walls, turning corners.
You can't see the maze itself.
No. Only the person standing above the maze can see the path. The source argues that the person running the maze cannot be the person solving it. You cannot have clarity if you're drowning in sweat.
So Machiavelli would argue that power comes from position and leverage, not from endurance.
Exactly. The king doesn't fight in the shield wall. The king stands on the hill and directs the army.
This really challenges the value we place on ourselves. We think, I worked 80 hours this week, therefore I am valuable to the company.
But the source argues that is a complete misconception of value. It brings up this concept of the disposable essential.
Oof.
The harsh reality mentioned in the text is that those who burn themselves out are praised, yes, but they are rarely promoted to true power. They are viewed as essential, but also replaceable.
Essential but replaceable. That sounds like a paradox. How can you be both?
Well, think of a fuse in an electrical box. It is essential for the machine to work. But when it burns out,
You just pop it out and put a new one in?
you pluck it out and put a fresh one in for $1. The function they perform is essential. Someone has to push the rock up the hill. But the individual pushing it, they can be swapped out. When the rock star collapses from burnout, the system replaces them within a week. The structure remains.
And the source warns that if you make your value about your ability to suffer, you are training people to use you, not to lead with you.
Precisely. You are advertising yourself as a beast of burden, not a driver.
That is a massive wake-up call. We are literally training people to exploit us by showing them how much pain we can take.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
So, okay, we've established that the guilt is manufactured, the praise is a trap, and the promise that hard work pays off is often a lie designed to keep us in the maze. So, what do we actually do? Because I don't think the advice here is stop working, lay on the couch, and starve.
No, not at all. And that's important to clarify. The source isn't advocating for laziness. It's advocating for awareness. It talks about the awakening. And it doesn't describe it as this happy moment initially. It usually starts with a crack in the logic.
Like a glitch in the matrix.
Sort of. It's a feeling of unease or emptiness. You achieve everything you were supposed to. You got the promotion, you finished the project, you pulled the all-nighter, but you feel hollow.
You realize the reward didn't fix the exhaustion.
Right. You reached the top of the mountain and realized it was just a pile of rocks.
And the source warns that this is a dangerous time because when you start to wake up, when you stop drinking the Kool-Aid, you face social isolation.
This is a very insightful point. We are social creatures, you know. When you stop playing the game, when you stop bragging about how little you slept, or you stop rushing everywhere looking busy, you become a threat to the people around you.
Because your calmness highlights their panic.
Exactly. It's the classic crabs in a bucket mentality. If you can succeed without suffering, it invalidates their suffering. It suggests their pain might be unnecessary, and nobody wants to hear that their sacrifice was for nothing.
So they lash out.
They judge you. They'll call you lazy or unambitious or complacent.
Oh, look at him, leaving at 5 p.m. Must be nice.
Right. The source warns that this judgment is the system trying to pull you back in. It's the other prisoners wondering why you aren't rattling your bars like everyone else.
So how do we handle that? Does the source say, we should just quit, flip the table and walk out?
Surprisingly, no. And this is where the Machiavellian aspect really comes in. The source advises against a loud, dramatic rebellion.
Why? Rebellion feels like the natural reaction. I quit. Screw this place.
Because rebellion is just another emotional reaction. It's still being controlled by the system, just in opposition to it. If you rage quit without a plan, you lose all your leverage. You become a victim.
So instead it suggests a repositioning.
A shift from executioner to strategist.
Right.
Correct. The advice is to stop measuring your worth by your fatigue. Stop asking, how can I do more? And start asking the really dangerous questions. Who benefits from this suffering? And does this action bring me more freedom?
It talks about prioritizing tasks that build leverage and autonomy rather than just filling time to appear busy.
Yes. The strategist prioritizes that autonomy. The source suggests building structures, systems, assets, investments, things that exist without your constant presence. The goal is to separate your survival from your daily grind.
That's a huge mental shift. Instead of, I need to work to prove I'm good, it's, I need to build something so I don't have to work this way.
It's about utility versus morality. Work becomes a tool you use, not a master you serve. The source describes this as moving from being a piece on the chessboard to seeing the whole board.
There's a section where the source talks about how we manage our time during this shift. Because if you're trying to act like a strategist while everyone else is still acting like a hustler, it's going to look weird.
Right. It says clarity requires standing back. You have to claim the time to think, even if it makes you look unproductive to the outside observer. You have to be okay with being misunderstood by the people still in the trap.
That might be the hardest part. Being okay with people thinking you've lost your edge just because you aren't visibly stressing out anymore.
But that is the price of freedom. The source notes that real power is silent. It doesn't need to prove its effort. If you are secure in your strategy, you don't need the validation of the hustle.
You don't need the boss to call you a hero anymore.
No, because you know where you are going. You aren't looking for a pat on the head. You're looking for the exit key.
So we move from seeking praise to seeking position.
And from seeking busyness to seeking impact. The source emphasizes that once you see the mechanism, Once you see the golden chain and the internal supervisor, you can never really unsee them.
Right.
You might still work hard. In fact, you might work harder than ever on your own goals, but you will never again be obedient to the guilt.
You choose your battles.
You choose your battles.
Yeah.
And you make sure that every drop of sweat is an investment in your own freedom, not just a donation to someone else's empire. It's about being calculated.
So Machiavelli would say, don't be the strongest soldier. Be the general.
Exactly.
It's a complete rewiring of how we view our careers and our lives, from suffering as virtue to strategy as freedom.
And it ultimately asks us to confront who we are beneath the work. Because if you aren't the hard worker, if you aren't the busy one, who are you?
That brings us to the final thought I wanted to leave everyone with. The source poses this lingering question that really stuck with me. It felt like the final test.
It's the question that keeps the hustle alive for so many people, I think, simply because they are terrified of the answer.
Exactly. The source asks, if you stopped running today, if you took away the busyness, the deadlines, the role you play for others, the title of the reliable one, who would you actually be?
It suggests that for many, the fear of that answer, the fear of the void, is what keeps them running even more than the work itself.
We run to avoid meeting ourselves.
We're terrified that if we stop, we'll realize there's nothing there.
That is something to chew on. Are we running towards something, or are we just running away from the silence?
A very Machiavellian question indeed.
That's it for this deep dive into the trap of hard work. Thanks for listening. And remember, sometimes the most productive thing you can do is stop and look at the map.
Until next time.